Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Sammons, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind successful startups, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future expansion. Today, we're excited to have Matt Davies, the co-founder of VisionCamp, joining us. Matt will be sharing more about his founding story and giving us a glimpse in his plans for future growth. So let's jump right in. Matt, welcome to Founders Future.
Olivia, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here. And can I just say what a fan I am of Founders Future? And I think it's tough out there, right? As entrepreneurs and as founders. So it's great that you're doing this so that we can share stories and be inspired by each other. So thank you.
Exactly, and that's kind of what it's all about. So speaking of inspiring, take us back to the beginning. What inspired you and what specific problem was you looking to solve with VisionCamp?
Sure. Well, it's interesting because I think this will be super relevant, hopefully, to the listeners of your podcast. Basically, let me take you back to, I guess, 3 years ago. We were coming out of the pandemic. Everything was kind of a bit tricky. And what it is I am a business consultant and I have a particular flair for facilitation and aligning leadership teams. And to cut a long story short, that skill set had connected me just before, well, a few years before COVID actually, and then through COVID, with two amazing, powerful women. One's called Sonny Burnell, and the other is called
How's that?
Ashley Hansberger, and they are the founders of a creative agency in New York called Motto. And basically, I hounded them for work for ages, and they kindly, introduced me to a few projects, and then steadily our relationship grew, and we kind of partnered on a number of really big projects. I think we did some projects for the likes of Virgin and Microsoft and all sorts of quite big brands. All through quite a turbulent time, them and their team, with myself as kind of a consultant, advisor, and facilitator in their projects, and we got on like a house on fire. Anyway, what we realized, all of us had worked in the industry for like 20 odd years, so very experienced, very used to kind of navigating leadership teams, and the problem that we came across time and time and time again was this question, the self-doubting, imposter syndrome scenario amongst leaders. And we often found that once we had helped them, and we're a sort of brand strategy specialists, really, once we'd helped them, gain that confidence around their future vision for their business, where they wanted to take their brand, and what that started to look like, that gave them immense power. They could align their leadership teams. They could really kind of set forward the future. They could prioritize. They could focus. And it kind of became a key thing. So as we're going through navigating a number of these projects globally, at this sort of time, this got us thinking like, this idea of vision, right? What if we centered in on that? Brand is a big subject and there's loads of kind of marketing sort of connotations, but vision appeals to all leaders. All great
Mhm.
leaders need a vision. And so we sort of honed in on that and made an offering around that, which I can build on in a minute. But that's kind of the essence of the founder's story, if you like, of Vision Camp.
Awesome, love that. And I suppose you mentioned there a little bit about the imposter syndrome, and I suppose a lot of listeners will be able to relate to that in the start of their journey and feeling like, where are you going and what vision and what path do you want to take? So it's awesome to hear. Walk us through kind of the offer evaluation. So how has what you sell and who you sell to changed since you started?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question because we started off thinking about like how could we have the biggest impact, and we actually cast a net wide. So we started off with a one-to-many offering. So what would happen is we get a whole bunch of people from across the world to sign up to basically a 2-day virtual workshop, which is still what Vision Camp actually is, in essence. And we leveraged all our experience and our skills to kind of basically pack an amazing program in. We got awesome feedback. We ran some pilots. It went really, really well. So that's how it started. But then what happened was we started getting inquiries from quite big brands for kind of a one-to-one offer, if you like, with just a
Hmm.
leadership team from one organization. And so we've also developed out kind of a one-to-one, if I can call it that. It's never one-to-one with a CEO. It's usually one-to-one with
One to
their
group.
leadership team of that one company, if that makes sense at all. But yeah, that's what we kind of did. So what we tend to do is that the structure is pretty much the same that we started with a few years back. But what we tend to do is we have these 2 days. We often find that mindset is a big challenge when it comes to vision. And so we like to spend some time thinking with leaders around, around that mindset. What is visionary leadership? What does it mean to be a leader, right? Rather than just a manager of what exists. Vision requires bravery. It requires thought. It requires great communication to influence others to come along the journey with us. We've got to lead, which means that no one's ever been there before, and we're expecting these people to follow us. So there's a big kind of piece on mindset and personal reflection. And we often think there's one section of the course which I think might be helpful to your listeners, where we kind of talk about vision igniters and vision crushers, right? So what kind of ignites a vision is the source that energizes that vision. And usually, that comes down to, things that really kind of are deeply held beliefs, your passion, your desire, a sense of the purpose that you have, your lived experience, maybe, social causes or personal things that, have upset you and that you're trying to fix. Well, you've got to become aware of that, as a business person, as you're trying to push a business forward. But then vision
Love that.
crushes, what crushes you? Let's be aware of that. We talked about one, imposter syndrome, fear, basically people that suck the energy out of the room. It's those sorts of things that can really crush you and really stifle vision. So a
Mm.
lot of kind of stuff around self-awareness is important to start. And before we carry on any further, I should probably just clarify, what is a vision? Why should leaders have a vision? What is it? And we define a vision as a picture of the world you want to create for the people you hope to impact. So that is, the most succinct way that us three, as I say, we've got loads of experience in this, could define that. And it's amazing, Olivia, absolutely amazing, how many businesses, brands, leaders that we come across who really haven't taken the time to think that through, to create that picture, to clarify it, to explore it. That picture of the world that they want to create. And specifically for the people that they want to impact. So it's strange, isn't it? We sort of, I guess, a lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs, they live by the edge of their seat, kind of thing. They're, you could say, from the outside looking in, they're very opportunistic. They're seeing how the markets go. They're developing things at pace, agile, fast. And there's kind of an element to this which is okay. But as soon as you want to bring other people with you along that
Hmm.
journey, as soon as your company grows to, beyond, the amount of people you can share a pizza with, what then happens is you need to be able to articulate that vision in a way that can inspire, rally, align all of those people. And that's where we sort of, at that sort of early growth stage, even beyond into corporate, we find that, a lot of people need VisionCamp to help them do that.
Yeah, amazing. And as you say, there's a lot of blocks and a lot of steps that you have to get through to reach the end of that vision. And I'm sure many founders listening will be experiencing their own, and there's many I'm sure you've come across as well. So, um, was there any pivotal moments where you almost gave up, and did you have one in mind and help you push through it?
Oh yeah, we had quite a few. I mean, I think on our first one, when we first launched, we had like this pilot, and we were like, "Hey, we done our pricing structure and everything, and we launched it, and we were like, it was like 2 weeks to go, and we had like hardly anybody signed up, and we were like, oh my goodness, maybe this whole thing is a complete waste of time. We spent a lot of time crafting these 2 days, the workbooks, the marketing, the brand identity. Obviously, we're in brand, so we're really focused on that.
Yeah.
Maybe this was a stupid idea after all. But Sonny particularly, she's a fantastic leader herself, and we believed. So we pushed through that, and sure enough, just at the last minute, we had a flood of people kind of sign up, which allowed us to do the pilot, and then since then we're doing them regularly. As I say, we find the most interesting ones where people reach out to us. So I hope I can mention them. I hope they won't be offended if I do. But we had an NFL team reach out to us. So we've done some work with the Minnesota Vikings, and that was like it just comes to mind because it was such an interesting vision camp. We helped that team walk through what was blocking their vision, what was holding them
Love it.
back, walk through how we articulate that, what strategies we could use to navigate, where they needed to unblock things. So we've got like a 7 point framework that we work through, that helps leaders, articulate where they're at with that kind of particular feature of the vision. And it kind of flows. So we start with like problem, we move on to the possibility, we move into purpose, particularly the people, potential pitfalls to the vision coming true, the product, the thing that we're actually going to produce to make the vision come real. And the most important bit, I think, at the end is the plans, which is where we actually work with the team and say, okay, so if we've navigated this correctly over those sort of 7 points, what are we actually going to do? What are our bold moves? What are we going to do next
Yeah.
quarter? What are we going to do the quarter after to really help smooth that out? And yeah, so it's changed as we've grown, one to many and then one to one. But then the problem was always getting started. So what I'd say to folks is get started, get that first step in place, and yeah, you'll find that as time grows, people tell people about good experiences and about value. So get that start and get it out there, and you'll find it will flow.
Awesome. And I suppose as you pivot, so how does the business currently generate revenue from that? What is your core offer at the moment and the pricing module today?
Yeah, so we do have two pricing modules. We don't have fixed pricing because it often depends on the size of the business, the size of the group that people want to take us through, like that they're asking us to take through. But in essence, the way that it works is people make an inquiry. Obviously, like we work with them before the workshop. We make sure we understand that the key challenges from the sponsor's perspective, whoever's instigating it. Sometimes we have to meet 2 or 3 times because senior people want to make sure that they're going to put their senior team through something. It works well. So there's kind of it can be a fairly long sales cycle at the start, but once they're
Yeah.
scheduled in, the benefit of our time is that it's a very focused, intense amount of time with the leadership team. It's kind of like your typical, I guess it's like a virtual shot in the arm, if you like. It's a bit like what you used to do, like classical away days, but now we're doing them virtually all around the world, with leadership
Awesome.
teams that are spread everywhere. I mean, where are you? Spain? I'm in South Wales in the UK here. This is the modern hybrid world that we live in. So, getting leadership teams all on a plane to one particular place, the time for travel, the pollution, all of that stuff, I think is slowly becoming a thing of the past. And so what VisionCamp aims to answer is that kind of virtual crossbreed of the modern entrepreneur and their teams. And that's what we do. So we schedule that in. Obviously, there's a bit of pre-work. There's the actual work in the 2 days. And then usually there's not a lot after that. Usually we equip the team with everything that they need to go away. So we're booking them like
Awesome.
that. And that's kind of the simplicity of the model, really.
Yeah, it's a very simple pathway through it, which is great. And you have a lot of touch points and a lot of time to speak and really get deep with the customers beforehand. So how are you currently acquiring customers and what channels and methods have you found most effective?
Well, in our world, Sonny, Ashley, and myself, we have our own kind of personal brands. So we're all consultants in our own right. And we do a lot of things like this, podcasts and public speaking, just genuinely in our own right. But we also, and so we've built up, our personal brands on LinkedIn is probably the biggest one. So we've got
Yeah.
powerful channels, if you like, to communicate with our target audience, which are like maverick leaders, right, that really want to kind of change the world. But they're just struggling with this vision thing, shaping it, articulating it, communicating it. And so we talk a lot on those channels about Vision Camp, about vision, why it's important, what you get really when you've got it. When you think about when you can't articulate it, the lack of vision, that team is all splintered, scattering. You feel like you're dragging people along. So there's a lot of problems we can talk about. And then we often talk to the solution, which we believe is having a strong vision, one direction, alignment, energy, all of that stuff. So we talk to the problem, I think is the most important thing. We show ourselves in action. So a lot of the times you'll see us, hey, here's us at Vision Camp. This is what we're doing this week. Obviously not sharing any personal details of the client that we're working with, but But that kind of approach, very authentic, very genuine, a bit of thought leadership in around vision as well, we find is very, very successful in spreading the word. And then what we find in is that people buy into us as people, like
Yeah.
we are the part of the experience. And so for example, like if somebody particularly likes Ashley, who's an amazing strategist, and they start talking to her, she might say, "Hey, come, why don't we talk about Vision Camp?" And we bring it through. So it's very organic. We don't try and force it with too many lead funnels and, kind of, very, very sort of salesy like that. It's very organic because we believe there's a genuine need out there that we can fill with our product, with our offering.
Yeah, and the first thing that sprung to mind while you were saying all that was it's very human. Like it's a very one-to-one
100%.
connection. We're very much involved in seeing what we're going to get. Um, so moving on from that, what would you say is the biggest bottleneck to growth right now? Um, is it the lead generation? Is it the sales conversion?
I would
The fulfillment
say,
capacity?
yeah, it's probably fulfillment capacity more than anything. Probably all of those are always bottlenecks at some stage, right? If you've got too many inquiries coming through, diaries, we struggle sometimes to fit everything in. Um,
Yeah.
like we had one through the other week, and I think the leadership team needed it. Like I think it was like the next week. They were like, "We want to do Vision Camp. We want to do this. Can you do it next week? Because we've got to kind of pull this together for a strategy meeting, the week after." And we're like, "Look, we're busy people. Like we can't just pull it in. We've got other stuff happening, so we need to, so capacity is a bottleneck, but we really don't want to compromise on that because for us it is about that high quality. We all bring something really powerful to the table. Sonny's an insane creative brain. Ashley's amazing strategist. I bring the energy and the sort of the communication skills and the facilitation. And realistically, we could splinter that out, and I could just take one bit, or Sonny could take another. But the power is the combination of all three of us, and we've learned this over many, many years of working together. There's just something about the energy when all three of us get together that adds the value. We're not quite sure what that is, to be frank, Olivia, but we just know it. We know it because we've experienced it, and the teams around us have experienced it. So, yeah, we don't want to splinter that out. But so what? That is a problem. Lead gen sometimes is an issue. Like if we take our eye off the ball in terms of posting content,
Yeah.
that can be a challenge as well. So yeah, it's I guess it's like with most businesses. The key is to be top of mind for when your target audience has the problem that you're looking to suffer to offer a solution to the suffering from, if that makes sense. So it's about being relevant at the right time and getting into people's minds so
100%.
that they remember you at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's being at the forefront when they're looking to solve their problems and to get in front of it. 100%
Precisely.
agreed. And I suppose if you had to identify one thing that if sold, what would make the biggest impact in Vision Camp growth in the moment?
Yeah, do you know what? I think that would be we would love to do we're doing them virtually, right? And that's fine. And as I say, it's designed for the modern company and leadership team, and that's fine. What I've always been sort of saying to the others is like we should definitely have a physical offering, right? But we've never been approached to do a physical offering, like because obviously it would cost a lot to ship the three of us over as well, and and get leadership teams together. So it's at one point like I'd really love it if a company approached us and said, "We love Vision Cap, we love the idea here, we really believe in this, but what we want to do is actually get you three in a room." Like that's what I'm really looking forward to. So we've been thinking about that, and we definitely would tailor a solution if that came around. But yeah, that's the big thing that I think would be great. I think the other thing that would be amazing. A lot of the work that we do in these vision camps is we have to do it behind closed doors. It has to be quiet, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously these are strategies basically we're framing with leadership teams. One day I would love it if one of those teams came back to us and said, the work that you did, the impact that it made was huge. We'll be happy for you to spill the beans, so to speak, and talk about that publicly. Or even if a team was brave enough to say to us, come and run it with us, and we're happy for you to film, all the way through and really
Love
share that
that.
experience. If we
Yeah.
could do that, if we found the right fit, that could have a huge difference because then people could see it in action. Where But it is what it is at the moment. A lot of people, and rightly so, we're a little bit sort of nervous about being so open about that as a senior team, which we understand.
No, I completely get it as well. But having all of that energy in one room together is something that you've got to be inspiring for and looking to get. So what are the priorities for growth? Where do you see yourself going over the next 12 months?
Yeah, well, we all have our own sort of individual businesses as well as Vision Camp. So, Motto is its
Yeah,
own agency, which Sonny and Ash run and are focused on as well. And I have my own consultancy business that I run. And so I work, directly with clients and help them scale and grow, usually over 12-month contracts. And so, that's kind of the reality of the situation. Um, but scaling for us would be, we're always happy to do more of these vision camps. And in fact, we talked about, wouldn't it be amazing if we could sort of leave our day jobs, if you like, and just do vision camps all the time. So we'd love that to happen. Whether it will or not, it just depends on the way that the word spreads, basically. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I guess another thing that we have also thought about, but as I say, we really don't think we're quite ready for that yet, is almost like we could get other people involved and other facilitators and so on. At the moment, we're not that interested in that because we're really kind of focused on the experience that we can bring as individuals and our
yeah,
experience running and growing businesses and brands. That's quite unique in a way. Like there's not many without sounding pig-headed. Like there's not many people with 20 plus years experience brand building who also would be happy to jump into a vision camp scenario. So it's kind of got that. You talked about bottlenecks before. That's probably another
yeah,
bottleneck if you look at it like that. But I often think there's two ways of scaling, right? One is to do what you're doing at the same price level and kind of just do more of it. And then you've kind of got to get more people and you've got to kind of grow that out, I guess you'd say horizontally. The other way
yeah,
is to scale vertically, which is to kind of just become more and more desired in the marketplace, almost do less of what you're doing and you charge more and scale like that. So, that is another option for us to do, is to become, to create a really premium offer that is completely unique that no one else can duplicate. So we've got our eye on both of those sort of scenarios, but I imagine it's the vertical rather than the horizontal for us.
awesome. So the vision's there to
It
pardon the
is.
pun, but
It
um,
is. The vision's
so
there. I should also add one more thing, which is we are thinking about the digital elements, of this. So, we could, and we have been thinking about digital products that we could kind of put out there. Um,
yeah,
but again, like what we find is that like, I mean, we've all got experience creating digital products, but for me anyway, this is just me talking personally. I don't know what the others would say to this, but for me personally, like it's the experience. When you're working with leadership teams and founders, they're not going to sit there and watch a course online and then think, oh, great, I know my vision now. Like it doesn't work like that. The magic happens when people get together, they challenge each other, you create the space for that positive challenge, and you work with them through, clearly to navigate the challenges and the roadblocks in the jungle ahead. That's where it happens. So that's the value around what we're doing.
awesome. And to finish off, we're going to jump into a lightning round. Just going to spitball some questions and move
Let's
on from
go.
there. So, what's one tool or resource that's been a big game changer in the business so far?
I guess we'd say Miro, which is like a digital whiteboarding space, because we can then get leadership teams to all look at the same kind of work boards, post-it notes, and all that stuff all in one place. That has been the best tool for us to run this business.
Awesome. And then one piece of advice that you've received about scaling a business,
Ooh, one piece of advice about scaling.
or
Yeah,
the
it
best
probably
piece
goes.
of advice.
Yeah, probably goes back to that point around what I said around there's two ways to scale. One is to do more of what you're doing at the same price, but then you've got to kind of clone yourself, clone those processes. Or two, it's to kind of do almost less of that, focus on what you're amazing at, and build more value in that one thing.
Yeah, awesome. Love that. And then what would be the best piece of advice you could give to any founders listening who are looking to start their own journey at the moment?
Get your vision set, like think about that future. I think the important thing in that statement that I said at the start was, a vision it's that picture of the world, but it's the picture of the world that you want to create for the people you want to impact. And I think that bit the people bit, people move out. They're like, oh, we want to scale to grow from 10 million to 20 million. It's like, yeah, but you've completely missed out. Why is that going to make a difference to society? Why is that going to make a difference to your customers? Why is that going to make a difference to your people? They're the things that you need to kind of understand, bottle up, and be able to communicate powerfully, because it's the people behind everything that will make it happen. If you just focus on what this means, just generally, or what it means to you, it's kind of quite a selfish approach, in my humble opinion. Think about how you communicate in a relevant way, wider than yourself, is my advice.
Awesome, amazing. And I mean, to finish up, that is another wrap on an inspiring episode of Founders Future. I want to thank Matt so much for sharing his incredible journey and insight with us today. To all the listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. You can also find more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their sales and marketing efforts through world-class systems and playbooks. Until then, keep climbing, and we will see you on the next one.